I love that you guys, as Polish people, also don't know how to pronounce it, which is great for me.
Yes.
Welcome to Breakfast in Beauclair, a global Witcher podcast. My name is Alyssa from GoodMorhen, and I'll be your host as you, I, and our international hanza accompany Geralt of Rivia and his destiny, Cirilla of Cintra, across the continent. If you guys have seen on social media, I'm brewing up a couple of exciting things for the show. Everything from a new sound booth to Breakfast in Beauclair official merchandise, so keep a lookout for that on the Breakfast in Beauclair social media channels in the coming weeks. Shout out to Tom from Australia, who upgraded their pledge, as well as our producer-level patrons, Louise of Covier, the owner of the Churlish Porpoise, Eric's the Godling, Katie the Redhead of Toussaint, Jacob B., Ava of Gullet, B. Haven of the Edge of the World, Charlotte from Vengerberg Glamorai, Red Kite, the Original Roach, Ariel Kitty, Dustin, Libby the Castel Ravello Sommelier, Claire Odell, Gennady Mondilovich, Katrin from Austria, Brett from California, Wolf, Corey from the US, and John of Riblia. If you'd like to explore becoming a patron of the show, head over to patreon.com/breakfastinbeauclair. As for this episode, fan favorites Anita and Karolina from Witcher Kitchen join me for part 1 of our discussion of Blood of Elves Chapter 3. Join us as we look behind the scenes at the production of Witcher Kitchen and Nerd's Kitchen, outline your list of must-eats and must-sees for your next trip to Poland, learn about the origin of the Wild Hunt, discuss trances and prophecies, not spoilers, and potato promises, and establish a definitive and unofficial translation of a famous Witcher quote. Tidings from Toussaint is on a break this week, so in today's mid-episode news segment, we have a special update from the Hanza's resident dungeon master, Gary from Kentucky. Learn about our community's D&D games and hear how you can spectate future sessions on the Hanza Discord and the Breakfast in Beauclair Twitch. Without further ado, let's begin our discussion of Blood of Elves Chapter 3. Welcome to Breakfast in Beauclair. My name is Alyssa, and I'm so pleased to welcome back 2 Hanza favorites to the show. My first guest is a game designer and project manager for an indie gaming studio in Poznan, Poland. She's a self-taught cook and bacon lover who merges her passions for cooking, eating, and gaming into one. My second guest is in public relations and marketing and says her biggest loves are Tolkien's works and the Witcher universe. She is deeply interested in Slavic culture and Polish and European folklore. With their extensive knowledge of cooking, gaming, folklore, photography, and food styling, they've created beloved fan projects, Nerd's Kitchen and Witcher Kitchen, and have even previously made content in cooperation with CD Projekt Red and Netflix Food. Please give a warm welcome to 2 of our favorite Witcher content creators, Anita and Karolina from Witcher Kitchen.
Hi.
Hello, everyone. We welcome you again to the lovely podcast, Breakfast in Beauclair by Alyssa.
Ta-da!
Yeah, we're so happy we come back.
Yes, we're really happy we're back because we really love what Alyssa is doing. It's a great work. I'm always repeating myself about that, but that's the whole truth.
Oh, that's so sweet. I mean, I love having you guys here, and I know that listeners of the podcast loved your episodes for the Bounds of Reason back in Season 1. You guys were lovely contributors to the Around the Table videos in Season 2. If anyone in our community would love to see those videos, they are on YouTube. And yeah, now we're here on Blood of Elves already.
Yes, after 1.5 years, if I'm not wrong.
Something like that.
Yes, about 1.5 years.
Yes,
yeah.
that was a long ride, but fast one.
You know, in that time, you guys have done a couple of new projects as well. I'd love to hear more about the work that you did with CD Projekt Red and Netflix Food, and some of the new updates that you've had with Nerd's Kitchen.
Well, in fact, all we do is all about food, pop culture, gaming, books, series, and everything what is around geeky, nerdy stuff. And we made few years ago a free ebook for Polish community on the premiere of Gwent. And then we made several recipes, which then were transformed into a separate project, Witcher Kitchen, which you can enjoy at our separate website. in English, of course. So you can go there, enjoy the recipes, cook it in your kitchen, and enjoy this experience, this culinary journey into the Witcher's world. And at the end of 2019, right, Karolina?
Yes, right.
Yes, so we made 3 videos for Netflix Food on the occasion of the premiere of the Witcher Netflix series. Then, for the last year, we made several projects, mainly gaming projects about food in video games. We made several videos for Xbox Poland division, for Bethesda Poland, and so on.
Guys, it's amazing.
So yes, basically we're very busy because it's still the work we do after hours, because we're working, we have our regular jobs. So everything we do as Witcher Kitchen and Nerd's Kitchen, we do after hours, but we really love it. And maybe someday we will make it as our regular jobs, hopefully. And this is our dream to make. So yes.
You guys have been doing an amazing job already. The quality of production that you guys have, from your videos to the photography to obviously the food itself and the recipes, is absolutely stunning. I love seeing all of the photos that you guys share and that people in the community share when they try your recipes. I know that a couple people in our community, including actually Charlie from Austria, who was on an episode during season 2, sent in a picture of like all of the food that was from Witcher Kitchen that she made for the premiere of the Netflix show as well.
Oh, that's lovely.
And yeah, I love it. It's great.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We're very happy about that. We're always happy when someone sends pictures of the food from based on the recipes from our website and enjoy this food, because that's our mission. For people to enjoy food which is connected with their favorite universes, for example, The Witcher.
Let's say somebody in our community is interested in just trying out a simple recipe. What is like one recipe that you guys have either on Witcher Kitchen or Nerd's Kitchen that would be appropriate for new chefs?
To be honest, I think the chicken sandwich from Witcher is the best is the best for the start, because it's quite simple and it's quite extraordinary in flavors, because the chicken is marinated in beer, which I know that some people haven't experienced yet. So I think that's the good thing for a start. It's quite simple, it's quite fast, and it's very, very good. I love this recipe, to be honest, and I'm making it at least once a month. So yes, I highly recommend this one.
Yeah, that recipe is one of my favorites too, and I really like take a shoot of this chicken sandwich. And I remember that Anita made for me several times this dish, because I won't always update a photo.
Yes, and it was one of our first ones.
Yeah,
yes.
The second was Keira Metz, I think, but chicken sandwich was first.
Yes, and we're really proud of this recipe.
Oh yeah,
so we recommend this one.
It's our trophy.
What about for somebody who has experience in the kitchen? What would you recommend to them from your websites?
I'm thinking, to be honest. Maybe just try to make your homemade version of Mahakam potato soup from Season of Storms. Because there you have to make your own sourdough to get the real flavor. Because the store-bought ones are not really always good, especially outside Poland or outside Europe, as I think. It's not really hard to make, but it requires time and requires patience in making sourdough, because it can go bad if you do it wrong. For example, you have the mold on it. So you have to throw it out and then start again, and it takes at least few days. Yes, that's quite time consuming, and it's easy to spoil. And this soup is based on the recipe which was featured in the book. Sapkowski itself made a recipe in the book. So, go through the recipe made entirely from from the book. But you can always pop up to just join our website and take some tips about this soup, so it would be easier to make.
That sounds delicious, especially now, like as we're exiting winter and like coming into spring, soup sounds great.
Yes, this is really hearty soup. It's sour in flavor and it has bacon, my favorite. It has some mushrooms and it's really resembling the flavors of our cuisine, our Polish cuisine, the Eastern European cuisine.
I don't know if we talked too much about the production of Witcher Kitchen and Nerd's Kitchen, but what are some things that people might not really know about the secrets of cooking or food styling that are crucial to your productions?
That it makes a lot of, how to say, bałagan.
Mess.
Yes, that it makes a lot of mess when we are making it.
It's me.
Yes, it's Karolina.
I'm sorry.
At least an hour of cleaning the flat after the day of photo shooting, as we are using, sometimes stones, sand.
Etc. Yeah, and when I create a scene, I just happy like a child, and Anita look at me, and I know she's mad inside.
Yes, so there's.
But she's patient,
Yes.
and I love that because this is for bigger purpose.
Yes. So there's always a mess. You just see only a bit of the whole background we create. Just, the one frame. You see just one frame and there's a whole background created for 2 hours, 3 hours by Karolina. And yes, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of mess. But
everybody must know about Anita experience to helping me, because when I need extra light, some flowers from the different part of the corner, and she must take those flowers and she must stay this 1 hour and keep them in hand.
Yes, in one place. So not only cooking, I know I'm not only cooking for a few hours, then I'm the holder of one petal, for example, one flower for an hour. So yes.
Aw. Well, they certainly turn out beautiful. Very lovely job, Anita, on holding all of the props.
The most important one, as I always say.
Yeah.
I should put it in my CV, I guess.
Yes.
Perfect assistant.
Yes, really important.
Yes.
I'm just curious, when you guys are done with the photo shoots, do you eat what you guys ended up making? Or is it kind of been sitting out for a couple of hours at that point?
It's been sitting, but I'm always hungry. So yes, I'm a food lover, definitely. And I'm always angry that I cannot eat everything I put on the plate. It looks lovely, it smells lovely, and I have to wait. Yes. But of course, if it sits for 1 hour, 2 hours, I just reheat it because I hate wasting food. Really, I hate it.
Yeah.
So our whole, team eats it after we're done with photo shooting. Sometimes Karolina says, I'm not eating this. Oh, I don't like it. And then, please try this one. It's really good.
I told this area, sometimes it's great, but sometimes it's like, okay.
Yes, she's very a picky one.
Oh, I remember that Anita one created a very fancy dish, and I said that for me, it's like, meh, okay. And I tell her, you know what? Just give me a potato with cottage cheese.
Yes, boiled potato with cottage cheese, which is in fact the local specialty in Poznań. Yes, and it's a really simple one. I'm cooking dish for 4 hours, to the slightest detail,
Yeah.
a lot of flavors, a lot of textures. And Karolina then says, just boil me some potatoes, throw some cottage cheese with herbs and spring onions, and I'm done with this. So
I mean, at least she knows what she likes.
yes, at least.
I'm a simple person.
It's a love-hate relationship between us.
Oh,
yes.
A question that I've been loving asking members of our community is, if someone were to visit Poland, or more specifically Poznan, what should they do or what should they eat while they're there?
What should they eat? Boiled potatoes with cottage cheese.
We'll have them go straight to Karolina.
Okay, to be honest, you could travel to Poznań only for eating purposes and you won't get bored, I promise. First of all, of course, as we mentioned, boiled potatoes with cottage cheese. We call it twaróg here. It's a local specialty called pyra z gzikiem. Also, potato pancakes, called here plędze. We eat it with sugar or cream. Of course, different kinds of pierogies, boiled, baked, because they're our national specialty, with potatoes, cheese, onion, groats, mushrooms, different kinds of fillings. We really love eating soups here in Poland, so it's worth to try at least few, especially traditional chicken broth. Then żurek, it's soup with sourdough, sausage, and egg. Tomato soup from summer tomatoes. Don't eat winter ones because they're quite awful, as they're cultivated in greenhouses, but we have a really lovely summer ones. And also cucumber soup from brined sour cucumbers. It may sound strange, but it's a really lovely soup and I really recommend you taste it. Probably you've heard about bigos, it's some sauerkraut stew. Also some breaded pork chop, it's called schabowy, kotlet schabowy here. It's fried on lard and usually served with fried egg on top. In Poznań, we also eat duck with pyzy. It's similar to bao. It's some yeast-based dough. We serve it with apples, sauce, and red cabbage. Also, dumplings from potato. We called it kopytka, and we serve it with sauerkraut. When it comes to something sweet, I would recommend rogale marcińskie. These are Saint Martin's croissant, and they're filled with white poppy and raisins, nuts, and also they have frosting on top. We also have here szneka z glancem, drożdżówka, which is a sweet roll with fruits, crumble, and frosting. And you probably have heard about pączkis. It's a Polish kind of donut filled with jam and some frosting as well. We have different kinds of pączkis, but plum and rose jam are most common. You should try some local cheeses, dairy products, local beers, vegetables, which you can buy on small markets from local farmers. They're the best, in my opinion. I really love them. And you should definitely try Polish bread only with butter so you can enjoy its natural taste. And remember to buy only the ones which are baked in a traditional way with sourdough. It may sound like a lot to eat for one travel, but plan ahead your menu and not to waste your chance to taste our favorite dishes here.
And Karolina, anything to do in Poznan?
So, if you have this comfort that you can choose just any moment in the whole year for your trip, we recommend it as spring or summer. Not only because at this time in Poland we have the best weather, yeah, trust me, but we have more different events in the city in which you can join when you finish visiting our regular attractions. For example, if you visit Poznan, you definitely should go to Old Town, with a beautiful town hall and charming, colorful old houses. We also recommended places such as National Museum or Poznan Gate, which is an institution promoting the history and heritage of the city. It is also worth stopping for a moment and seeing the castle in the city center. The building has been changed over the years, so it doesn't look like a fairy tale castle, but it's an impressive building with a very, very interesting history. And if you are looking for some rest, it is worth going to the park near the Grand Theatre. It is Mickiewicz Park. Or you can relax on Malta Lake, where you will also find many sports activities. In turn, seasonal attractions are various types of events related to the summer solstice, and outdoor theater events, or just simply concerts. And if you visit Poland in May, you have a chance to visit museums and just other different places as part of the Night of Museums event. For one night, you can enter various places for free and also join some bonus attractions that are normally unavailable. And finally, if you have the possibility of transport outside the city of Poznań, be sure to visit Rogalin with a beautiful palace and a huge park, Kurnik Castle, where you will learn the history of the ghost, the White Lady, or go to Giecz, where you will get to know not only history of beginnings of Poland, but you will also feel a little bit of Slavic atmosphere.
Yes, basically.
Well, it all sounds absolutely beautiful, so I guess we'll one day, maybe as a group, take a trip to Poznan, Poland in the summer.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good thing to do.
Yes. We're waiting for you. Hopefully, we'll just go past this horrible year, this one and last one, and that things will go back to normal. So, yes, we are waiting for you. I will cook something for you so you can taste all these local things.
Potato with cottage cheese.
Yes. So what I'll do is I'll go to Witcher school.
Great.
And then I'll come back up and visit you for boiled potatoes and cottage cheese.
I like this idea.
Perfect.
Yes, we're waiting. And we'll also make some chicken sandwiches for you.
Perfect. Thanks. So today we'll discuss Blood of Elves, Chapter 3, in which we follow Ciri's training in Kaer and witness the struggles and fears her guardians face with their child of destiny. Chapter 3 opens with an excerpt about the trial of grasses, the painful magical processes that turn a young boy into a witcher. This is very short, and it is equally very terrifying. We get this very brief excerpt from someone who we presume is a sorceress, Carla Demetia Crest, from a paper that she had written called The Trial of the Grasses and Other Secret Witcher Practices Seen with My Own Eyes, which is a manuscript exclusively accessible to the chapter of wizards. And it details the painful processes that these young boys go through in order to become witchers, and it starts with, on the third day, all the children died save one. So it really puts things into sharp perspective whenever we hear about the mutations witchers had gone through. Do you guys have any thoughts on this opening scene?
Yes, that witchers have some rough beginnings as well. Not rough lives, but rough beginnings. And yes, from this fragment, we know how they're created. And that's something unusual, something strange, something even shocking for some common folk, let's say.
For me, knowing this part of this book, now I have more empathy to Geralt and other witchers. For them, it's very traumatic, and they never wanted to do this the same to Ciri. I know this whole thing in the future reminds us as a reader that Ciri is not a real witcher, but now I know why Geralt and Vesemir Lambert didn't do this, because I think for them it's something too much, and I don't know, they live with this to the rest of their life if they create new boys and transform Ciri. And I think this little part in this book give us more sympathy to their decision.
Absolutely.
I'm done.
And we had heard a very brief allusion to this in Something More from Sword of Destiny, when Geralt is confronting his mother, Visenna, and he asks her, he's like, do you know what they do to get witchers' eyes to look like this? And
yeah,
he's kind
exactly.
His question is almost one of betrayal, like what he's asking her, but we don't really find out what is actually done to witchers in order to turn their eyes like that until we get to this part of Blood of Elves. It gives a little bit more context, and as you said, Karolina, it gives the opportunity for readers to empathize with the witchers as we're, humanizing them throughout these chapters in Kaer. We're learning more about them, we're seeing how they parent, and also understanding the traumatic events that frame and shape their lives as well.
And also understanding all the biases the common folk have against them, against witchers, like calling them freaks, something unnatural.
After we get that introduction to the chapter, we move on to the chapter itself. At the beginning, I'm going to butcher this, but on Mid-Inverne, the winter solstice, Triss and the witchers discuss the concerning qualities of their ward. They trigger Ciri's prophetic abilities with a drink, and Triss magically enters Ciri's trance, to horror. A lot of stuff happens in just the first 10 pages of this chapter. It's very dense. And you guys actually had a couple of notes about the winter solstice. I know that we were talking about this before we started recording, but it might be called Mid-Inverne. What do you guys think, and what do you know about this holiday?
Mid-Inverno. I don't know. As I said, Sapkowski is always playing with us when it comes to names. Like with the dragon, you remember our last
Villain
episode?
Trentonworth, yes.
Yes, and you practice it.
I did
So,
practice it a lot.
yes, you're experienced one with this. So maybe Karolina will tell us something more about it because she really loves this theme.
Oh, yeah.
This theme connected with the winter solstice.
So, now my part about the Wild Hand. Why do I mention about this here in this part of the book? Because the time of winter solstice is also a timeline when the Wild Hand is traveling on the sky. We also know from Andrzej Sapkowski's book, Manuscript Discovered in Dragon's Cave, that this specific time is also so called Rough Nights. In Witcher's book, Wild Hand is a mix of European culture and its beliefs about this myth. The inspiration is drawn from Scandinavian myths, a bit from German legends, or goes back to British or Irish roots. I know, it is a big topic, so today I want to give you only a small part. Just some fun facts about the Wild Hand in Poland. You may not know, but in my country, the legends about this terrifying hunt is a little bit different than in books. How the Wild Hand looks like. In Poland, the myth of the Wild Hand differs regionally. From some, the Wild Hand is a procession of demons. From others, it's the souls of people who were evil during their lifetime. And from other regions in Poland, it is a one-eyed forest demon, a distant cousin of Leshen. So now you see, if Sapkowski drew only from Polish beliefs, the Wild Hand would be very, very different. And I really, really like to refer to this origin of the Wild Hand because it shows how colorful the world of The Witcher is when it comes to the folklore inspirations. Books has some accents that are close to us Poles, but in fact The Witcher draws from many cultural elements, and I love that.
I mean, you pretty much nailed one of the fascinating things about the Witcher series is that it just becomes this very big pan-European influence where Sapkowski is just pulling stuff from everywhere. And it's one of the cool things about having this international rotating list of guests is that everyone kind of comes to the series with their own thing of like, oh, that's from my culture. Oh, this name is actually Dutch. Oh, this, that, and the other thing.
Yes, definitely. That's great about that. Yes, that it's not only, monocultured but polycultured, and it's great that everyone can just find something for themselves from their own cultures. Yes.
The winter solstice sets the backdrop for everything else that comes in this section of the chapter. Cohen and Ciri are playing by a fire, completely in their own world, while Triss and the Witchers are talking. There's a lot of things that they discuss. Two of the biggest things, Ciri's prophetic powers, as well as her previous trances. The Witchers seem to just kind of be doing their best, given the limited information that they knew. And we talked about this in Chapter 2, the absolute reaming that Triss gave the Witchers when she found out the shambles that Ciri was living in at the time.
Yes.
But
kind of funny and traumatic.
Thankfully, Triss remedies it very, very quickly. They kind of continue their conversation here. Triss is telling the Witchers that Ciri is a source. And this is something that has come up previously when we met Pavetta in A Question of Price back in The Last Wish. Triss expands on that a little bit more here. She says that, uncontrolled powers are an ominous thing. And usually the source may throw themselves into a bout of mental illness or a catatonia. And more specifically, that they're a medium. So she expands to say that they're like a transmitter and they unknowingly get in touch with energy and unknowingly convert it. We're going to see a little bit more about what exactly that looks like toward the end of the section. But yeah, that's something that Triss brings up.
I think the Witchers didn't know actually what they must handle. And Triss also thinks that Ciri is a very powerful person, but not that much as we know later. For me, this is interesting because nobody thinking about Ciri that she can be something more. Just that I think she have just some magic problems that can be easily solved, and I think she at some point scares them, but they also fascinating and they want to learn more because at the end of everything, the most important thing is Ciri and her good health, and they care about her. So I think they made a good decision to invite Tris because anything can go wrong, but Ciri safe is most important.
Yeah, and for me, the most interesting part and what I like about The Witcher is that we have different levels of fantasy elements. Like, okay, we have sorcerers, we have witchers, and then there's something they're all afraid of, something that they don't know how to handle. It's really fascinating that even the characters in the book who are fighting some monsters, and it's normal. It's a everyday life for them. And then there's a little girl, and they don't know what to do about her. They're a little afraid, a little curious, and even the sorcerers. She's quite experienced, let's say, in magic, arcanum, and so on. Even her feels like afraid, threatened by the powers Ciri might have. That's really great about the Witcher books and the Witcher universe, that we have these different and various levels of fantasy stuff there. So you don't know what to expect next. Some kind of prophecy, some kind of, I don't know, energy outburst on some on the banquet like we had with Ciri's mother. So yes, that's great about that.
Before we continue with the episode, we're going to hand it over to our special guest, Gary from Kentucky. When we come back, Anita, Karolina, and I will continue our discussion of Blood of Elves, Chapter 3.
Hello, I'm Gary from Kentucky, the resident dungeon master for Breakfast in Beauclair's International Hanza. In the last 6 months, our community's D&D campaigns have grown to 4 per week, featuring 19 players across 7 countries and 3 continents. If you don't know much about D&D or Dungeons & Dragons, it's collaborative storytelling done in groups, with every player contributing to the story by rolling dice and role-playing as adventurers in a high fantasy world. If you love adventure movies like Princess Bride and Willow, banter between heroic characters, or choose your own adventures, then the Hanza's D&D games are for you. There's been a lot that has happened over the 4 games, including heroic dragon slaying, treacherous dungeon delving, lovers' quarrels, character deaths, and jokes that make some players and viewers feel like they are enchanted by a laughter spell. For a moment, I'll share one such heroic moment with you. North of the village of Oakhurst, a group of 5 adventurers have set out in search of another party that came this way to clear out a cave. The cave is special to the locals, who come here to collect fruit that has healing properties from an ancient tree. The party has traveled a few hours with no sign of the party nor the cave. Yrel, a half-elf and the party's ranger, scouts out a pair of stone pillars with goblinoid writing scrawled on them. None of the party can read it, so they search the area and quickly find a ravine just beyond the pillars that descends 300 feet. Amelia, a wood elf and the party's paladin, spies a small outcropping that is only 50 feet down. The outcropping has a campfire and, from what they can see, a grouping of ruined tents, the first sign of the other group. The party deliberates on a way to descend before coming to an agreement on tying the rope they have to the pillar and making the climb down. It will be dangerous, but it's their only option. Or so they believe. The first 2 that attempt to descend are Versius, a human, and party's blood hunter, and Talia, another wood elf and the party's druid. Both successfully climb down without issue and search the campsite. Versius searches the ruined tents only to find what remains of some traveling gear, while Talia searches the fire and discovers that it still has warmth. The party can't be far. Just then, the pair hear a scream from above. They look up and see Dagna, a dwarf and the party's sorceress, has let go of the rope and is plummeting towards them. Versius dives out of the way, and Talia is too late to act. Dagna slams into the ground and doesn't move. The rest of the party come to her aid. Luckily, Dagna is made of hardier stuff. She slowly gets back up with the help of Talia's healing magic and dusts herself off. The party looks forward down a stony slope towards the entrance of an ancient temple. This must be where the other party went. They will have to go in, but first, they catch their breath and rest. Each of the characters in this story were played by members of the Hanza, with me narrating the events that are influenced by their dice rolls. Versius' search, Talia's investigation, Uriel scouting out things, Amelia seeing the outcropping, and even Dagna's fall was the result of dice rolls that influenced the game. If you would like to hear more of these collaborative stories, then join us on the Hanza Discord at bit.ly/thehanzadiscord to spectate one of the 4 games each week. European games start at 7 p.m. Central European Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and American games usually start at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, that is 4 p.m. Pacific Time. Follow Breakfast in Beauclair on Twitch at twitch.tv/breakfastinbeauclair and hit the alert bell to be on the lookout for upcoming live games. Until then, they're hosted on the Hanza's Discord server at, once again, bit.ly/thehanzadiscord. Hope you'll join us for our next story.
Hey everyone, welcome back from the break. When we left off, we had discussed the opening of Blood of Elves Chapter 3 and Triss's insistence on entering Ciri's trance. Eventually, the Witchers tell Triss about all of Ciri's previous trances. The first time was the night that they arrived, and she drank this drink called White Seagull, which is what they call a very gentle sleep aid, I think. And she started to prophesy some gibberish. And there's a cute little section here where Triss asks, "What did she say?" Lambert says, "Rubbish, senseless drivel." And Triss responds, "Then I have no doubt that you understood each other perfectly well. Drivel is your speciality, and I'm further convinced of it every time you open your mouth." And it's so silly. It's so brutal.
Some rant there.
Yeah.
I just love their relationship.
Yes.
Oh my god, it's such a good insult. I love it so much. The second time that Ciri started to prophesize was when she fell during training, and the third time she prophesied after a nightmare. So she woke up in the middle of the night, and we learn here that she predicted death for Cohen and Geralt, but they refused to tell Triss the details of what was said.
Yes, and what I wanted to say that about these rants and, this going to each other's throats a little, it's what makes these characters believable, let's say, for the readers, because if you have a friend, you're not always nice to your friend, you're always ranting them, just, you're stupid or something, and yes, you're always making jokes, some rough notes about them, so that's the pure essence of the real relationships. Real good relationships.
I love what you said about making these relationships believable and making them, just come off the page and come into life, because this entire chapter is an examination of these relationships, how Triss relates to the Witchers, how the Witchers relate to each other, and how they all choose to parent Ciri.
Yes.
Yeah, this is some kind of a weird family for me.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's very entertaining, though. I really love this chapter, particularly when we get to the middle section of it, just because it has a lot of joy in it, I think. I think despite all of the frustrations or the challenges that everyone sees, it is a very hopeful part of the book series.
Yes. It gives you some family warmth, let's say, even if it's not a real family. It feels like it. It feels like it, yes, and it's very heartwarming, I would say.
Cohen and Ciri have kind of been in the corner, not listening to anything. They've been playing that silly game where you try to touch the top of the other person's hands. I'm assuming this is a game where you have your hands under the other person's, and then you have to put your hands and slap them over the top.
Yes,
I used to play that a lot as a kid.
In Polish, it's called łapki, gra w łapki.
Yes, it's called like that. So it's play with hands, with handies, because łapki is very soft wording for hands.
Yeah,
that's cute.
Yes, childish, version of this.
Yeah. I think it was incredibly descriptive in English, or at least where I was. I think we just called it the hand slapping game.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I imagine a slap in the face. That's
Yes.
brutal.
Yeah.
Instead of hand slap in your face.
Yeah. So I think
yeah.
that's all we called it. So Cohen and Ciri have been sitting in the corner, kind of playing this silly game. Cohen brings Ciri on piggyback over to the table, and he's about to take her to bed. Triss now has all of the context that she needs around Ciri's previous prophesizing. She takes advantage of the moment to trick Ciri into drinking some of the white seagull, the drink that, causes her to go into this prophetic trance. It's kind of creepy, like what actually happens, and I listened to Peter Kenny's audiobook version this morning, of course, as I usually do. As soon as Ciri takes the drink, she kind of shudders and then closes her eyes and starts dancing around the room, and the Witchers have to move stuff out of the way. Cohen gets between her and the fireplace. And at this point, Triss says that she's going to try to follow Ciri into the trance. The Witchers are super cautious about this. And she was like, "Don't worry, I've got it." And
Yes.
it's great.
And you know what happens after someone says, "Don't worry, I've got it."
Yeah. It gets a little bit concerning. She enters the dream, or this trance, and she's a seagull. Flying through the air, she smells the salt water, and then all of a sudden Ciri calls out to her. Triss suddenly realizes that she's no longer by the sea, but she's instead flying above Sodden Hill, watching figures of the dead, some of whom she recognizes as her fellow sorcerers who died on the hill. She eventually finds Ciri. They have a number of different conversations that get increasingly erratic, I would say. And then all of a sudden, Ciri is overtaken by presumably the same demonic voice that Triss had encountered at the beginning of chapter 2.
So what is interesting for me in this part that we now see Triss' problems, what haunts her and her life. For this scene, we can have any background. We can have, I don't know, nice forest, sea, but we have very horrific moments for these characters, and I think this is more powerful that we not only know something about Ciri and what happens to her, but we also learn something about Triss, her past. And actually, it's not nice. It's very dark, very painful, bloody. And it's for me the next level to show something important. And also, we can, at the same time, learn something about Ciri and Triss, because this moment is not only about one person. We have different view.
Yes, but we don't know exactly what all the things means, as some of them are just foreshadowing or just fragments of the things which we will know later.
Yeah, that's a mystery, but but still create a specific kind of feeling. And now about Ciri, or something you want to tell, Anita?
No, you can go on.
It's my turn, yeah?
Yes. I'll just wait here chilling.
So in this specific part of chapter 3, we finally have some news about, of course, Ciri and her heritage, this famous child of the Elder of Blood and Blood of Elves, yeah. I think this is the moment when we as the readers know that something is wrong with these characters, because we always think about her in this category of princess, something special child, like magic, like pure magic, like sorcerers have, not like ancient magic. This is something new, terrified a little bit, and something that connects a very long time ago that, I don't know, is English konjunkcja sfer?
Wait a minute. Conjunction of the spheres, you call it, Alyssa, in English?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're back to this this period of time when everything starts. So we have this old history about elves, humans, monsters. When we have this, Anita?
Conjunction of the spheres.
Thank you. And when we...
You should say it.
I don't want to. Because I know you do this better.
Oh my god. Alyssa will kill us.
Do it again. So also in this part, we finally know something more about the heritage of the series. It's not only about the magic, some sorcerer's magic, but it's a very ancient magic power, actually. And it's connected to this first moment in history of continent when we have this different stories about elves, humans, monsters, etc., and everything messed up. And now we can learn that Ciri is something more, and it's terrifying, but it's also fascinating. I think people can be curious what she will be capable in the future. And also, for Triss, this moment is also something that maybe change her, because she now look at Ciri at different point of view, not just, oh, is it just a little girl with a little magic, little source. I think in this moment she will be treat her more with more Anita jest po angielsku to słowo
No jakie?
Respect or care?
Not respect her, but
Caution?
yes.
Okay.
So now Triss maybe will be looking at her different and more. Anita?
With caution.
Yes, thank you.
Repeat after me, Karolina.
Anita, if you want, tell this part now as you.
Okay, so Triss will just take more caution with dealing with Ciri from this moment, I guess.
And I think you're definitely right about how this affects Triss. These are events which Ciri shouldn't really have any knowledge of. Ciri doesn't really know what happened on Sodden Hill, so there's something more sinister and possibly more evil at play. You know, for whatever this thing is, has brought her here to kind of the ghost of Sodden Hill. After we have that scene on Sodden, the scene changes a little bit. Suddenly there's a marble staircase leading into the abyss, and Ciri says, it has to be this way, there's no other way, only this. Down the stairs, it has to be this way. And then she starts saying all this stuff about the child of the elder blood, the white flame. It is not ended, it will never end, the lion cub must die, reasons of state. And we're getting all of this stuff that as a new reader makes absolutely no sense. And it genuinely is shocking to hear all of this, and it scares Triss for sure. You guys had also pulled out that Ciri gets a cut on her hand when Triss first approaches her. And there's blood that comes along, and it comes along her lifeline on her hand and flows down her wrist. And she starts talking about something that we've never heard before. She says something about Sherrowed, and then she says it's the Blood of Elves. All of these things are kind of coming together, but for a new reader, make absolutely no sense at all.
Yes, when I first read this, it always no sense for me at all. For me, this is a different point of view, because as a new reader, this is something shocking for demonic, as you said, evil, and it's very unusual that this is actually book 3, and we very quickly have some very important revelation about these characters. Some authors give this on the end of the book sometimes. And when I read this part again, as when I know the whole story, I think this moment is perfect and makes more sense now for me when I know this chapter from different point of view. And I think when was the perfect time that people can know about this. This is a perfect time. This is a time when we have this isolation in the Witcher place. We have this saucer trees, and everything is so very private, because when this is happening on the castle, like in Cintra, we have this story about Ciri's mother.
Yeah.
That I think it will be more chaotic, and actually, if that will be Ciri on the place of Pavetta, I don't think that many people help her. They will be scared her, and she can stay alone with this problem. And now we have this close, private atmosphere. Ciri is around the people who love her, care about her, and I think this is why this is the perfect moment to reveal something like this.
Yes, exactly.
We've heard all of this in Ciri's voice. She's been kind of talking fragments of nonsense, honestly, that we're not really able to put together or verify up until later in the books. That being said, all of a sudden, there is a change in voice. Triss, in the beginning of the chapter, mentioned that Ciri was a medium or a transmitter for something stronger, or something that is trying to reach her. And this is the point where we actually experience what that thing is. And if you listen to Peter Kenny's audiobook, again, he does a really incredible job of going from Ciri's voice to something much more metallic and sinister and very evil sounding. But this voice speaks through Ciri through the end of this section. And Triss tries to throw a spell of identification at it. The book talks about how, her spell is breaking through like a second wall, third wall, fourth wall, fifth wall. Whoever is behind this attempted possession of Ciri or Ciri's trances is incredibly powerful and incredibly hard to reach. We hear this quote from this voice, and there's all of these different translations of it in English, and I'm sure that you guys obviously have the official Polish, but one of the English translations for this sentence is, "You've mistaken the stars reflected in the pond for the night sky." There are other translations that talk about, like, stars reflected in the lake from the heavens, or other ways, but that is essentially the gist of it.
You have it, Karolina?
Yep, just a minute.
So I will translate it from how it's in the original, if it's lake or a pond.
I have no idea, and everybody always complains that, like, oh, the English translation does such an unpoetic job of the whole thing, and I'm like, I don't know any better.
To be honest, I have the same feeling. Like, I was reading Polish versions some time ago when I was teenager, and then I'm looking for an English version just to get more impression from the translations. And sometimes I get the feeling like, it's not poetic enough. It's not, giving the magic of Polish language. Sometimes it's even impossible.
So you'll come back?
Karolina,
okay. So
yes,
now
yes.
I just read this quote in Polish and you will beautiful translate. Pomyliłaś niebo z gwiazdami odbitymi nocą na powierzchni stawu.
It's rather a pond, I would say, because staff is something smaller than the lake.
Yes.
So pond is a better one, I guess, for this than the lake. And the rest is quite okay. Yes, because we have a night, we have stars, but only with this pond. But yeah, the pond is rather more accurate for me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, well, thanks for verifying. So I guess we'll roll with this as the unofficial Breakfast in Beauclair translation for this quote. You've mistaken the stars reflected in the pond for the night sky. This voice starts to say other things, and things that even new readers will recognize at this point in Blood of Elves. This voice says, "She is not a child. She is the flame, the white flame which will set light to the world. She is the elder blood, hen asher, the blood of elves, the seed which will not sprout but burst into flame, the blood which will be defiled. When Ted Dede arrives, the time of end." New readers of the books, or listeners of the podcast, will recognize this as an abbreviation of Ithiliene's prophecy, which opened Blood of Elves right ahead of chapter 1. And we had a brief discussion about this with Lars and Brett, but we see it again here. So whatever this voice is, it's referencing Ithiliene's prophecy. And also, I think a gross part of it, it says the blood which will be defiled, which was not written, at least exactly in that way, in the English translation of Ithiliene's prophecy at the beginning. So that part is a little odd, at least that sticks out to me. One of the last things that this voice says to Triss, she talks about, are you prophesizing death for me, for the girl, for everybody else? And the voice responds with,
You are already dead, 14th one. Everything in you has already died. I'm certain that's terrifying for Triss to hear, as someone who has had such a close encounter with death at Sodden Hill. After you've, fought so hard to move past those traumatic experiences is probably incredibly triggering for someone who's experienced this. Yeah.
Definitely. And maybe she thought, maybe I'm really dead. Maybe something happened and I don't know, reincarnation of myself or something like this. So it's really, really strange, and probably she was really, really terrified by this.
Yes, because I think that this story about Sodden is very intimate for Triss, and I think that she is the one that know what's happening the best, because as we know, not many sorcerers survived, and I think this is a story that she didn't tell everybody that she met of her life, and now some strange voice said something that it's very private for her, and I think for her that can be very messy situation, because she someone know about her very important things, and she don't know this is a good person, bad person, some demons or something, and it's a danger for her.
Whatever this thing is, it reaches into Triss and starts to bring up all of these things that we didn't really know about her as readers. And because, as you guys said, this is such a private experience for her, one, because obviously it's within this strange trance world that Sirius created, but also it's because, this is pulling out her deepest fears and insecurities. So I think that, just as a scene, I think it's a really interesting choice and a very unique choice as a way of exploring and introducing the inner workings of this character. After Ciri's trance, Triss wakes up, and it's actually really great the way that Peter Kenny does it in the English audiobook, is because he gradually, I don't even know how he does this, he gradually transitions, I think, Ciri's voice or the evil voice into Geralt's voice, and it's very gradual over the course of saying Triss's name a couple times. It's a really cool piece of voice work if you're able to hear it. But yeah, so Triss wakes up in, she says spitefully, the best bed in Karamorhen, back in the tower, and Geralt is with her. And they have a brief conversation about what had happened. Apparently, Ciri's okay, but she's, both her and Triss have been sleeping for a very long time. Ciri and Triss have been asleep for a little bit too long, as Geralt puts it. Triss tells him vaguely what had happened by saying that, Ciri is a very powerful medium. I don't know what is trying to possess her, but whatever it is, it's very strong. And we should definitely get her to the Temple of Melitele in Alander, and hopefully whatever is trying to possess her won't be able to reach her there. She's like, Geralt, you need a sorcerer that's much stronger than me. You need a sorcerer that has more experience. She's like, you know who I'm talking about. She tries to get Geralt to reach out to Yennefer because Yennefer will have more experience with this. Triss we know is a very young sorceress, whereas Yen is like in her 90s, I believe, at this point in the books. So yeah. A lot of very intense stuff, and then it ends with Triss asking Geralt to stay with her, just stay with her, and that's it.
Yes, and I think that this advice from Triss to get help from Yen was a real sacrifice for her internally. I think that her heart was breaking at that moment, probably. But it's a nice thing she did for Ciri, for the sake of Ciri, to help her and to help her with these unstable powers, which she cannot control and that might get worse in the future.
Yes, and this shows that they are actually like this strange family, because Triss didn't think about herself, her feelings, but most important is the good of Ciri, and she knows what she must say to Geralt and who's the better for guide this little child.
Yes, and it's still a really complicated even relationships between characters. Like you have Triss, you have Geralt, then you have Yen, you know what happened earlier. And some of the readers who read all the books know what happened in the future, in the next books, in the next chapters. So it's quite complicated and unusual. Let's say they all have some relationships between them. It's not so simple, not so, let's say, I don't have a right word for it, to be honest. They're complex.
Yeah, complex. And I just have only an example for that what Anita said, that this situation between Geralt, Yennefer, and Triss is different, but it's how fascinating how for Triss and Yennefer, they can thinking about themselves about some kind of sisters or something like that, because we know that in some part of the books, Triss think about Yennefer as her friend, as some kind of sister, and in different parts of the books, Yennefer thinks about Triss and Triss about Yennefer like a rival about Geralt. Yeah, this is actually fascinating because when we have this part about the good of someone else, the good about family, good about Ciri, Triss and Yennefer can create a very good team. Now, in the one moment, everything can change because it's about very private feelings. Yeah.
Yes, but in fact, they are always thinking about someone else.
Yes.
Let's say fate.
In the end,
About
always.
yes, at the end about Ciri, because she's I don't know how to call it. We have some expression in Polish like oczko w głowie, but I don't know.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know how it's translated. But
that someone is very, very important
Yes.
for you. It's like everything for you, the whole world.
Yes. Apple of the eye, is that
yeah,
a
yeah.
good one? Yes, so Ciri is like apple of the eye for them. Not only a very interesting example of something extraordinary, of something powerful, but also the very important part of the strange family.
And we're definitely going to have an opportunity to see how this familial relationships evolve, particularly, over the course of this chapter, but over chapter 4 and chapter 7 especially. In this very last excerpt that wraps up the section, Triss cares for Ciri for 10 days before the lingering terrors and delirium that she experienced after the prophetic trance passes, and supported her with visible and invisible care. So we're kind of seeing how her relationship to Ciri is definitely evolving.
So she's like mother for her for this short period at least. So that's nice that even if Ciri lost parents earlier and she has only a grandmother for some time, now she has a different kind of family. So that's really nice, and giving us hope for the next chapters that she won't be alone, probably. Yes, that's why I'm just telling like probably, just spoiler free as always.
So spoiler free. Maybe one day we'll come back around to these chapters and be like, oh yeah, here were all the things we couldn't tell you guys about, but now we're done with the books.
Yes.
Before we learn more about Ciri's time in Kaer Morhen, we're going to end our discussion here. Join Anita and Karolina from Witcher Kitchen and I in the next episode of Breakfast in Beauclair for our continued discussion of Andrzej Sapkowski's Blood of Elves, Chapter 3. Thanks for joining us at the Breakfast Table. For show notes, transcripts of each episode, and a complete list of our social platforms and listening services, head over to breakfastinbeauclair.com. Breakfast in Beauclair is created by Alyssa from GoodMorhen. It's hosted by Alyssa with the Times from Tucson Music and by Alyssa from Witcherflix. The show is edited by Alyssa with music from Nitro Filter Media. Breakfast in Beauclair is produced by Alyssa in New York City with Louise of Covier, the owner of the Churlish Porpoise, Eric Segodlin, Katie the Red Knight of Tucson, Jacob B. Ava of Gullet B. Haven of the Edge of the World Shop, Finkberg, Lemri, Red Kite, the Original Roach, Arrow Kitty, Dustin, Libby, Claro, Dell, Jenny Mondilovich, Catch from Osceola, Brett from California, Wolf Corey from the US, and John Brooklyn. Special thanks to Anita and Karolina for joining us for this episode and our international Hanza for their support.